I still remember her face from school like it was frozen in time. Same eyes, same quiet confidence. Back then, I loved her silently, from a distance, never brave enough to say it out loud. Life moved on. We grew up, went separate ways, and I convinced myself she was just a memory. Until one evening, when my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Do you still recognize me?" My heart skipped. I knew before she even said her name. It was her. We met at a small cafe, the kind of place where time feels slow. When she walked in, everything else disappeared. She smiled, but there was sadness behind it. Deep, heavy, the kind you don't fake. She wasn't the carefree girl from school anymore. She was tired, broken in ways I didn't yet understand. After a few awkward memories and quiet laughs, her voice changed. She looked down at her cup, hands shaking slightly. "I'm getting a divorce," she said. I didn't know what to say. I just listened. Then she looked straight at me, the same way she never did back in school, and said the words that changed everything. "I need you to help me fight it." In that moment, I realized she hadn't just walked back into my life by accident. She came because she trusted me, or maybe because I was the only one left who ever truly loved her. And I had no idea what saying yes would cost me that I didn't answer her right away. I just stared at her, trying to understand how the girl I once loved had become a woman asking me to stand beside her in the most painful battle of her life. She began to speak, slowly at first, about the marriage that looked perfect from the outside. The nice house, the smiling photos, the promises everyone believed. But behind closed doors, she said, it was control, silence, and loneliness. She had lost herself trying to keep the peace. "I stayed longer than I should have," she whispered, "because I was scared." Her eyes filled with tears, and suddenly I wasn't sitting in a cafe anymore. I was back in school, watching her laugh in the hallway, wishing I could protect her from everything. The feeling I thought was long gone came rushing back, stronger, heavier. She told me her husband didn't expect her to fight. He thought she would give up quietly, sign the papers, walk away with nothing. That's why she came to me. Not because I was a lawyer, not because I was powerful. "But you always stood up for what was right," she said. Even back then, that hit me harder than anything else. I realized this wasn't just about her divorce. It was about her finally choosing herself. And somehow, she believed I was part of that choice. When we stood up to leave, she paused and said softly, "If you say no, I'll understand." I looked at her, really looked at her, and knew one thing for sure. Walking away this time would hurt more than getting involved ever could. That night, I couldn't sleep. Her voice kept echoing in my head. Every word, every pause, every tear she tried to hide. I kept asking myself why fate had brought her back now. After all these years, when I had finally learned how to live without her. The next morning, I called her. She didn't say hello right away, just breathed softly, like she was afraid I might hang up. "I'm in," I said. There was silence on the line. Then a quiet sob she tried to hold back. "Thank you," she whispered. "You have no idea what this means to me." From that day on, we started meeting regularly. Not just to talk about lawyers and paperwork, but about everything she had buried inside her for years. Each meeting pulled us closer, and each story she shared made me angrier at the man who had broken her spirit. But the more I stood by her side, the more dangerous it felt. People started talking. Her husband found out I was helping her. His messages turned cold, then threatening. He warned me to stay away, to remember my place. That's when I realized this wasn't just an emotional fight anymore. She wasn't just risking her marriage. She was risking her safety. And by choosing to help her, I had unknowingly stepped into a war that was about to change both our lives forever. The threats didn't scare her as much as they scared me. She tried to act strong, brushing them off like they were nothing, but I could see it. In the way she checked over her shoulder, in how her phone stayed clutched in her hand. One evening, she showed up at my door unexpectedly. "I can't go home tonight," she said quietly. I didn't ask questions. I just stepped aside and let her in. We sat on opposite ends of the couch at first, the space between us heavy with everything we weren't saying. She told me how her husband had slammed the door so hard the walls shook, how his words were sharp enough to cut, even without fists. "I used to think love meant endurance," she said, "that if I stayed long enough, things would change." I wanted to tell her she deserved better years ago. I wanted to tell her I had loved her then, and maybe never stopped. But I stayed silent, afraid of crossing a line neither of us could uncross. That night, she fell asleep on the couch, exhausted. I covered her with a blanket and watched her breathe, realizing something terrifying. I wasn't just helping her fight a divorce anymore. I was falling in love with her all over again. And this time, the consequences were real. By morning, everything felt different. She stood in my kitchen, holding a cup of tea she hadn't touched, staring out the window like she was trying to decide her future from the sky. The silence between us wasn't awkward. It was heavy, meaningful. "I don't want to be weak anymore," she finally said. "I don't want to run. I want to end this the right way." That's when I knew there was no turning back. We met with a lawyer later that day. For the first time, she spoke with confidence. She didn't lower her eyes. She didn't apologize for wanting freedom. Watching her reclaim her voice did something to me. It made me proud and scared. Her husband didn't take it well. That night, my phone rang from an unknown number. His voice was calm, too calm. He told me to step away, said this wasn't my fight, said some things are better left buried. I hung up without answering. When I told her about the call, she didn't cry. She didn't panic. She just took a deep breath and said, "I knew this would happen." Then she looked at me and asked the question I had been avoiding since the day she walked back into my life. "Why are you really doing this?" I opened my mouth to lie, but the truth came out instead. "Because I loved you then," I said. "And I still do." She didn't respond right away. She just reached for my hand and held it tightly, like she had been waiting years to hear those words. In that moment, I understood something clearly. This fight wasn't just about her divorce anymore. It was about two people finally choosing courage, no matter the cost. She let go of my hand slowly, not because she didn't feel the same, but because she was afraid of feeling it too deeply, too soon. I could see the battle in her eyes. After everything she had been through, trusting love again felt more dangerous than fighting a divorce. "I don't want to hurt you," she said quietly. "You don't deserve to be dragged into my mess." I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "I'm already in it, and I chose this." That's when she broke down. Not loud, not dramatic, just tears slipping down as years of fear finally released. I held her, and for the first time she didn't pull away. It felt familiar and new at the same time, like something we were always meant to finish. Days turned into weeks. The legal fight grew uglier. Lies were told. Pressure increased. People took sides. But with every attack, she grew stronger. She stopped doubting herself. She stopped apologizing for surviving. One evening, after a long day of meetings and arguments, she looked at me and said, "If you hadn't come back into my life, I think I would have given up." That scared me more than any threat her husband had made, because I realized something then. I wasn't just helping her escape her past. I had become part of her future. And if this fight ended the way I hoped it would, there would be no going back to the life I had before her. Not that I wanted to anymore.